Tell him about the time we faced.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel Revolution Show with myself, Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Straub.
And we do not have Andy today. Andy's under the weather, so hopefully he gets well soon, and we'll see him next show. We are live today on Twitch, the Facebook pages or Facebook page and groups, on YouTube, Twitter, and Trovo. Just remember too, for those of you on Twitter, we cannot see the chat. So if you want to be in the chat with us, migrate over to Twitch or the Facebook page or group or YouTube or Trovo, wherever else you can consume content at. Today we are going to talk about the news and the Guardians Christmas special. So speaking of Guardians, starting off the news, James Gunn on why Nova wasn't introduced in Guardians. He said he never was. I've never seen Richard Rider in any draft of Guardians of the Galaxy. There were a billion versions of Guardians before I came aboard. Yes, I guess maybe some script had Richard Rider in it, but there's a lot of different versions. Yeah, I was never I never had Richard Rider anything. He's just too big of a character and seemed to, from the beginning when I came on board with Guardians, I didn't want to have two human beings. I wanted to have one human being so that he could be surrounded in this world of aliens. And then we realized by little by little that all these characters are only for their are the only of their kind. I cannot talk today already. They're only human beings to them, So basically Richard Rider never part of Guardians of the Galaxy, at least never part of James Gunn's version of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Wow. So I guess that includes the holiday special and the third movie.
Yep.
So,
unless they do some kind of end credit scene, because we know that Guardians 3 is going to be the last of James Gunn doing Guardians. So if they do another Guardians going forward, they make a new team, they could tease Richard Rider in a post-credit scene.
And see, I guess that's where I'm confused, because I feel like maybe we've talked about this before, but was it rumored that he was going to be in the third movie?
I think there was some chatter about it, but looks like James Gunn set the record straight.
Yeah, because I don't remember him talking about that for the holiday special, for the third movie. I don't remember any of it, so that's why I'm but I could be very wrong on that. So
yeah. But we'll see. Maybe, and there's rumors about a special presentation to introduce him.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of rumors about Nova going around that we talked about in the past. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. The next news, and this is a big one, Bob Iger is replacing Bob Chapek as Disney CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Chapek is stepping down.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Iger retired 2 years ago, but is returning to the role and will be reinstated immediately. In June, which is funny, the Disney board of directors unanimously voted to extend Bob Chapek for 3 years. So whatever happened with Bob C at Disney, he's walking away. His pockets are not empty,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's walking away with a big fat paycheck. So other news too, Kareem Daniel, head of Disney's media and entertainment distribution division, is also out. So which is interesting, which, we may see more animated stuff now with Bob Iger back. We may see more adult content now with Bob Iger back.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting to see how this shakes out and how, or if at all, it impacts Marvel.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's not only going to impact Marvel here. This could impact, Star Wars, other, Disney projects and things like that. So, wow, that's big changes happening.
Yeah, something definitely to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man news. Vincent D'Onofrio reportedly voiced Kingpin in Spider-Man freshman year. So that's interesting.
Interesting.
Some Across the Spider-Verse news. We will have 6 animation styles, according to executive producer Phil Lord. He said the first film had 1 animation style that dominates the movie. This movie has 6. So we're taking those tools, adding all things we learned on the Mitchell vs. the Machines, and then growing them further to accommodate the ambition of this movie. which is to wow you every time you enter a new environment and also make sure that the style of the movie reflects the story. And the images are driven by feelings as opposed to some egg-headed art project, which it also is, by the way. So there you go. I know we mentioned this last week about the animation styles. That's what I had for the news for it. So there are going to be 6 animation styles.
And you know what's interesting? Back on the Kingpin comment, I just saw that actor actually talking about like working with Spider-Man or giving like a little hint about Spider-Man. So I guess that's what he was referring to. Most
Yep.
likely.
Yeah,
Well-
he did make a comment. I think last time we had the news, just you and I, at
Mhm,
one of the cons, he made a comment about that's the one character he wants to come up against is Spider-Man.
mhm.
So
It'd be cool to see Spider-Man and Daredevil versus Kingpin and
Yeah.
something.
like a team
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Like maybe have Kingpin come back and Born Again and bring Spider-Man in.
Yep.
And that'd be an interesting little tie.
And then speaking of Spider-Man, there are rumors that Tom Holland will be voicing Spider-Man in Across the Spider-Verse as well. I
Hmm.
keep seeing rumors about that going on, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
I mean, he did just sign that big like picture deal, didn't he, with them?
Yep.
Supposedly that rumor that's going around. So I mean, I don't know how many pictures that could be, but I mean that could also include those movies, could it not?
Yep, it could.
Yeah.
It could involve those movies, TV shows, anything Marvel content, and it does sound like they are itching to get Tom Holland back and going because I do have some big news coming here
Hmm.
in the next one. So I was making sure that we're live in the proper places, which we are, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest news is Spider-Man 4 of Spider-Man news.
Uh-oh.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4 is on the fast track. Holland is signed, but one thing that needs to be settled is the director. Watts is wanted back, but he experienced superhero burnout and dropped out of Fantastic Four for a reason. Zendaya is also wanted back. The goal is to film in 2023 for a summer 2024 release. And one idea in early development was to have Miles Morales living in Peter Parker's apartment complex.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. It didn't say about Jacob's Ned or anything, but it does sound like Holland, Zendaya, and possibly Watts coming back, and looks like they're getting the band back together.
And we've already seen Miles Morales' uncle in the MCU because he was the guy with
Yep.
the ice cream in the
In
trunk, wasn't
Homecoming,
he?
yep.
Yeah.
He played,
So,
what's his name? Childish Gambino. What's his real name? Donald Glover.
mhm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always wanted to play Miles Morales, but he's kind of too old for that now.
Yeah, I mean, he could always play the Prowler, though. That'd be
Yep.
kind of cool, you know?
Yeah, so interesting to see if they do bring Glover back, if they do that. And what's interesting, too, that if they want to do a summer 2024 release, what is the 2024 release schedule right now for Marvel? I wonder what that will shape up. Would that be not Thunderbolts, but Captain America, or Captain America 4?
Like New World Order.
Yeah, New World Order.
I mean, that could potentially be.
Yeah, let's see here. What is that release schedule for 2024?
Curious, is Captain America 4, is that gonna, are they still holding the same kind of project idea on that so far? As we
It
know?
does sound like it.
Okay.
So it looks like Blade is going to be. I know Blade got moved to September 6, 2024. Deadpool got moved to November 8th, 2024. And then Fantastic Four got pushed to February 2025.
Okay.
But let's see, what was the rest of 2024 shaping up to be?
So Fantastic Four will come out right before like Secret Wars.
That's what it looks like.
Hmm.
Yeah, 2024 is basically all the back half of the year.
Okay.
So I guess New World Order must be next year then. I thought, yeah. So
Mhm.
Blade, Deadpool. Well, no, hold on. These are just those are the updates. Where's the rest of the schedule? Hold on. 2024. Here we go. Captain America: New World Order is May 3rd, 2024. Thunderbolts is July 26th, 2024. So if they're going to release a Spider-Man in 2024 release, that means we could have a June Spider-Man release, or they could move New World Order or Thunderbolts out, seeming that or they could make New World Order or Thunderbolts earlier too, because right now there's nothing in the first half of 2024 movie wise for Marvel. Right, Captain America: New World Order is the first movie in May. Then you have Thunderbolts July, Blade September, Deadpool in November. So I wonder if one of those movies gets moved earlier that year, depending on the production schedule.
I mean, that would mean that they would have to start filming for that project probably like next
Yes.
year,
Yeah.
like early next year, like, you know, so that would be interesting.
Yeah, you said so Avenger or Fantastic Four would come out right before King Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, King Dynasty is May 2nd, 2025. There's an untitled November 7th, 2025 movie, and then Secret Wars May 1st, 2026. And then we don't know what Armor Wars is going to be either. Right now, that's to be determined right now. So I wonder if Armor Wars could get put into the 2024 schedule, the first part of that year.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's really interesting. I still think the biggest takeaway for this for me is that Fantastic Four is right before Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Like, right before.
oh, here you go. The only thing Marvel-wise in early 2024 is Daredevil Born Again for spring 2024.
Hmm.
So
That's a lot of content.
yeah. So something to keep an eye on. I'm sure their schedule will get updated again, especially if they are aiming for a summer 2024 of Spider-Man 4 release.
Mhm.
Quantumania news. Peyton Reed on what version of King to expect. He's someone who has dominion over time, and he's a warrior and a strategist. All-time antagonist, giving fans of the comics and probably Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes a pretty good idea what to expect. There's been a lot of discussion about the impact that his appearance of King the Conqueror makes, said Reed, adding, there are big things in store.
Mm.
He also addressed how it sets up the King Dynasty. I think it has a profound effect or a profound impact on the MCU. Jeff Loveness, who wrote this movie, is writing the King Dynasty as well. So there's been a lot of discussion about the impact that this appearance of King the Conqueror makes. There are big things in store. He also addressed on why King for Quantumania. That's interesting to me, to take the tiniest, in some people's minds, weakest Avenger and put them up against this absolute force of nature. So that's
Mhm.
interesting as well on those comments.
Mhm.
Jonathan Majors on Kang and multiple versions. He said, yeah, absolutely. That's what's on the page. That's what the IP says. I was cool, very cool. Kang just lives in his own world in the MCU. No spoilers here, but there's so many variants of him.
Mhm.
And with powers that are the MCU, that Intelligentista and the brain trust there, they're just really working to use the IP to its best ability. And it's extremely humbling that they picked me to step into that. So I'm honored to do it. And I'm always excited to see what we're doing. Kang is a career in itself. It's either the cake itself or the cherry on top. I don't know. But to play multiple versions, it's just beautiful. It's a workshop every day. This sounds like we're going to get the Council of
Variants.
Kings and a
Yeah.
lot of variants. Ramatut, you're the King.
You're gonna probably, I mean, probably not gonna see like an Iron Lad, but you'll probably
I don't-
see maybe
do you
like an
think-
Immortus.
Immortus.
Because we saw He Who Remains is kind of dressed like Immortus, so he's kind of like
Yeah.
a mix between Immortus and He Who Remains. But I mean,
Scarlet Centurion.
yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's another one. Maybe Mr. Griffin, but I mean,
Yep.
he's more of like a business guy.
Yeah.
and
Do you
I-
think though that he could still be Iron Lad, but as an adult Iron Lad? Now that's not on like a teenage younger version.
No, I mean, I'm not really sure on that, but I don't think Iron Lad like completely out of the equation just yet, because they could totally have like Iron Lad be a Kang variant who comes to help the Avengers defeat Kang.
Yeah.
You know, like just kind of like they could swing him in almost at the last second there and have him almost like running from his variants or something, you know?
Yeah.
But I think this like plays out to where we might have multiple variants like we were just talking about, but with like maybe Ramatut, Immortus, Kang, potentially having like, maybe it leads to where we have some big all out brawl where like all these variants from across different universes are all fighting all of Kang
The
and
one
his
true-
variants.
Yeah. Or trying to do the one true game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a chat from the comments here from Twitch. Yeah, this would be nice if anyone from Marvel Studios tune in for ideas, because we do, talk some nice ideas here from time to time. So good stuff there. Keep it coming.
Mhm.
The other things too, he said, he goes, we wanted to explore the quantum realm. It's a massive, massive world building undertaking. It owes an equal part to electron microscope photography, 70s and 80s heavy metal magazine stuff, a lot of my favorite science fiction book cover artist, and there's a little of the artist Mobius in there. Fantastical realism is the vibe. So I wonder if any way that we're going to get some hints of Fantastic Four being trapped in there, and that he's already come across them
Yeah,
instead
that
of the
would
negative zone, or have the negative zone be an area of the quantum realm.
and I think that goes back to what we talked about a long time ago, where, they could totally have the Fantastic Four be like somebody that was working with Hank Pym with the quantum realm
Yep.
tech that he was developing early on before he really like knew what it was like to go subatomic and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that's the reason why he never went subatomic and, wanted to always keep the regulator not really messed with, because it happened one time and maybe
Yep.
it happened to the Fantastic Four. That could also be the reason why they get their powers in the MCU, is because they've been in the quantum realm for so long. I think Janet
'Cause
came out
yep.
with powers,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah, remember in Endgame too, when they had that fake phone call about the accident with the red stuff dripping and that kind of stuff, how he freaked out and ran when they went
mhm.
back to the 70s. So that could have been like a post Fantastic Four accidents with Reed Richards and Hank Pym working on something.
And I think Steve says something like the box is glowing or
Yeah,
something
glowing
like
or
that.
yeah, it was
And
glowing.
he's
Yeah,
like, oh no, not again, or
yeah.
something like that. Like he's had an issue before. So, I mean, definitely. I mean, they've got tons of opportunities that they could use there if they choose to do so.
And the interesting thing here for the last comment, Kang is trapped in the quantum realm in Quantumania. So I bet what he has Scott wanted to do some kind of heist on, that he
Mhm,
needs things so he can get out of the quantum realm. And
mhm,
I wonder if that's what he defeated last time, by being stuck in the quantum realm.
mhm. But the question is he stealing something from the main universe, or is he sending Scott? It seems like if he's trapped there, then he's going to be sending Scott somewhere else. So,
Yeah, do you wonder if Scott could jump to the quantum realm and steal the 10 rings, or steal the bangle, and
maybe.
have to come back in? Or is someone like Bill Murray's character, or even someone else that we, in the movie, could have something that keeps him trapped there?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a reason why he can let Scott leave and he himself not escape, unless he's like waiting for the perfect
Yep.
opportunity to leave.
Or needs a piece for his chair, maybe,
Maybe.
to
Yeah.
power his chair, and that's why he's trapped, because his chair is not powered right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I find it kind of hard to believe that he's almost trapped when he's got this like massive force built there.
Yeah.
Because he's got like, it seems like an army. There's a scene in that trailer that they show where he's got like literally like soldiers outside and hovercrafts and all
Yep.
kinds of stuff. So, kind of reminded me of like the Quinjet almost. Some of those craft, but yeah.
David. Okay, I want to butcher this last name. I am Malchian, who played Kurt as part of the ex-con security people.
Mhm.
He's returning. Michael Pena, who plays Luis, has refused to address if he's returning or not. So he won't like say yes or no.
Mhm.
But the new poster features Kurt, so that's how we know Kurt's coming back. He was in one of the new poster or promo things we saw. But Ti Dave has reportedly confirmed not returning.
Mhm.
So right now we know one of them. It would be a shame if we don't get Luis to
Mhm.
do some kind of recap, just his stories and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he was
So
always a fun character to have in there. And it was always just like how he expressed things. It was just really great. And his reaction to things was always hilarious as well.
yes. The biggest news, we have a report on who William Jackson Harper will be playing.
Hmm.
We'll be playing a character called Quaz. So, a telepath who is part of a rebel group against Kang. Now, could this be Quasar, maybe? Or is this original character? Because that's
Hmm.
interesting. The name is Quaz.
Yeah, that's interesting. And this is going to be somebody that's in the quantum realm.
Yep, a rebel group against Kang. The
So
telepath.
I mean, like, I wonder if the quantum realm has kind of been like a catch-all for like a lot of people that, you know what I'm saying? Like almost like there's other people that have been trapped there.
Yep.
and maybe that's where like all these people like maybe gain their abilities. Like we might even see other characters that have been trapped there that we may not expect. Like kind of what I said about the Fantastic Four, but like you said, like maybe Quasar or somebody else. I'm trying to think of somebody that it would kind of make sense to have that happen. But I mean, who knows?
And
I
also
mean,
it could be how Cassie gets her powers too.
yeah, yeah.
They all get sucked in there. So
Mm-hmm. It's true.
yeah. I'm trying to double check, making sure Quasar didn't have any kind of telepathic powers. I don't think he did. His were more the Nega bands
But I
or the
mean,
quantum bands that he had. Yeah,
they changed powers in the MCU. I mean,
true.
like Wanda's powers aren't really exactly the same in the MCU as they are in the comics, you know. Um, she's so strong in the MCU. So strong. So,
Just double check to make sure we're good here on the stream. Yep, we're good. So the next thing we'll talk about is Wakanda Forever.
mhm,
Other Black Panther replacements were considered instead of Shuri.
mhm,
Screenwriter Joe Robert Cole says we would kick around the ideas and try to extrapolate where the story goes and what's the most impactful choice. What's the best journey and where do you go after the film in terms of those characters? And Baku certainly was someone that got kicked around a little bit. I think you're correct because in the comics, Shuri is Black Panther and there's a natural organicness, I guess is the best way to say it, to her becoming the Panther. But you kick the tires on all sorts of ideas and you just want to make the best decision and do what's best for the story. Nakia was also considered. That got kicked around. Her name got kicked around for sure.
mhm.
So
Interesting.
yeah. Marvel is blocked from making a Namor solar film. So Namor is basically in the same universal rights issue as the Hulk characters, which is 2 more years from when I found out. So Nate Moore revealed that as part of the Marvel Studios producer Nate Moore revealed that as part of the complicated rights situation surrounding Namor is blocked from making a Namor movie after Black Panther Wakanda Forever. He spoke with The Wrap. He said that Tenoch Huerta's Namor can return to the MCU, but it cannot be by the way of a standalone film centered on the character.
Mhm.
In the same breath, he added that Marvel Studios allowed to use Black Panther 2 villain as part of the film's marketing campaign, unless it was part of a series of posters. They have the same issues as the Hulk rights, and Universal has them for 2 more years. Yep, and I agree, Roxy, that does suck. But they can make a Black Panther 3. I know Andy has said they could do a similar Siege type thing, but instead of Asgard,
Mhm.
have it be Wakanda. We know that Wakanda and Kulaklan, or what's their
Tech
yeah,
Teco-
yeah, but yeah,
Telecon.
yeah, Telecon. Sorry, I
Yeah.
went blank. I kept thinking Atlantis. Telecon.
Yeah.
We know that they're allies now.
Mhm.
And we know that Val wants to get her hands on vibranium. So it'd
Mhm.
be interesting to see if that's part of the Thunderbolts storyline at all, or a Black Panther 3 storyline where, we also saw that another government tried to get vibranium at the beginning of Wakanda Forever and
Mhm.
they got fooled. So I'm going to see if that's part of Thunderbolts or a Wakanda 3, or I'm sorry, a Black Panther 3 storyline.
Well, and the interesting side of this too is it's when you look at it, really after Wakanda Forever, the world doesn't really know of Telecon.
Nope.
Like only Wakanda knows.
Yep.
So Wakanda can kind of like tap them as like an ace in the hole if they ever need to.
Yep.
But
They
yeah,
can
I
flank
mean,
people.
yeah. I mean, like no, like even at the beginning of that movie when they were making people walk off the ship and Namor throws the helicopter into the ocean and they kill the divers that are in those suits because I mean they had to like
Mhm.
they took the suits and Shuri used one of them, so whatever happened to the divers. But I mean like they thought that was Wakanda, and so still the world still thinks that Wakanda was responsible for that,
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
so Wakanda's going to have to deal with things like that. And also, they can always, I guess, like I said, tap Namor and Telecon to
Yep.
come help them fight in the future if they ever need to. Because it seems like the Thunderbolts movie was almost headed that direction, where the Thunderbolts were going to be sent into
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
Yep.
So
We'll see. We'll still see if that happens or if it's Savage Land and Anti-Metal and we get Khazar and Zabu and possibly Sentry. It sounds like maybe. So,
mhm. And
well,
I think the Century one is a perfect villain for Thunderbolts because then you're gonna get to see John Walker like meet somebody else who's a super soldier, have a meltdown that he can't beat this guy, who can fly and do all this crazy stuff. So in comparison to what John Walker can do. So yeah.
yeah, I think bringing Hyperion and the Squadron Supreme into Thunderbolts be kind of weird. I feel like Squadron Supreme will be something more for like Loki because that's dealing more with multiverse,
Mhm.
or even with Quantumania,
Yeah.
or another movie that's more multiverse focused, not something like Thunderbolts and so forth. So
And with that Thunderbolts team, I mean, versus the Squadron Supreme, it almost seems like that Thunderbolts team would be so outmatched there.
Yep.
Versus the Squadron Supreme. Like,
well, just Hyperion and Nighthawk alone.
yeah, like just Hyperion alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I definitely think with only 3 super soldiers, Taskmaster, Ghost, and Yelena, I mean, I think that's an uphill battle for them.
Or like Red Guardian
Oh yeah. Well, I
and
meant like,
Bucky.
yeah, I mean, then that's why I said like 3 super soldiers.
Yeah.
Like, they got John Walker, they got Red Guardian, they got Bucky, but still, like, they're super soldiers. They can't do a lot
They
of
can't
things.
fly.
Yeah, they can't fly. They're like advanced humans. They're not like, they don't have crazy powers or anything.
Yeah. The last thing about Wakanda Forever, it should be on Disney Plus in early 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is longer than that usual 45-day window we've seen with Disney Plus.
I wonder if that's because it'll probably stay in the theaters a little bit longer, you think? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Blade, we have a new director. Lovecraft Country director Jan Demange. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. He was basically tapped to be the new director. The project's creative overhaul also includes a new writer, Emmy-nominated scribe Michael Starberry. And look, Dave's joining us from the Philippines. Hey, Dave. Dave
What's up,
says,
Dave?
"Yo, yeah, what's up, Dave?" So they have a new writer. They have a new director. And word on the street is filming will start July 2023. So
That's great. I know there's been like a lot of excitement about this movie, but then there was like terror when they started like having the script issues and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad to see that it looks like it's kind of getting back on track here.
Oh, and Jamie's there as well. Hey, Jamie. Jamie Cloud's in the chat, so she's there also.
Hey, Jamie.
Basim Tariq, the former director, he did make some comments on the new director. He says, "The news is finally out. My dear brother, Jan Mynheer Demange, is directing Blade. Y'all are in, for a real treat. Jan was instrumental in giving me the courage to start developing Mowgli. He played a pivotal role during post as well, helping Riz, my editor, Adam Biskupski, and myself get the film across the finish line. During that time and during the pandemic, Jan became a cherished friend and brother. I couldn't be happier for him. As he steps into this role, I am proud to support him as he supported me," which is pretty cool. That, the former director speaking out, didn't work out for him, but he's so happy to see, rising tide floats all boats. Let's see from the chat here. I tried sitting through the new Black Panther movie, and after a while, I gave up on having any consistency from a writing standpoint, but that's just me. I did like the first one though, and that's fair. The different strokes, different folks. Not everyone's gonna like it, so that's fair. That's Darth Gorycorn from Twitch chat there. Good to see we're getting more people on Twitch interacting with this. Here you go. With the Spider-Man earlier and Vincent D'Onofrio. He did say which MCU hero is the end goal for Kingpin to take on. As an audience member shouted Spider-Man during a panel at September Salt Lake Fan X, D'Onofrio said there's only one really end goal, and I think somebody just said who that would be. And then he later said, it definitely has to be Spider-Man. So there you go.
Which I'm pretty sure Kingpin was first introduced in a Spider-Man comic.
I believe so as well.
Yeah, so like I think a lot of people like have made the Kingpin Daredevil like attachment, but like I'm pretty sure he was first introduced in a Spider-Man comic. So it'd be kind of like going full circle there if they did that and put him and Spider-Man in a movie. Whole project.
So Daredevil news. Speaking of Vincent D'Onofrio, he also made some comments on Born Again, Daredevil series coming up. I will say though, you guys have no idea what you're in store for in Born Again. I know a little bit more than you guys, and all I can say is during that next series, you're not going to be thinking about anything but the next episode. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
He also further want to talk about Echo, on the Echo series because he's also going to be in that as well. He talked about Alaqua Cox's performance. He says, I have to say that in Echo, which is coming, where you get to see Alaqua Cox's performance, where you get to see it, it was just phenomenal. He then went on to tease scenes that Kingpin shared with Cox's Maya Lopez, hyping specifically the last few episodes and saying of the show, it's going to be quite something.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Let me check out the chat here. Yes, the actor of the first Black Panther had an incurable illness, and so knowing his time was short, he put everything he had into that role. A truly awesome individual. Yep, agreed. Just from all the roles that he played. Another one here from the chat. Kingpin. Honestly, Kingpin versus Tony Stark will be interesting considering how smart both of them are. Yep, but we're never going to see that in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll see another comic run of that one.
I think they have an interesting chance here with, I know we've talked about it before, but Kingpin running for mayor.
Yep.
So I think that with what happens at the end of Hawkeye with Kingpin being shot by Echo, we know he goes blind in the comics.
Yep.
When he's shot. So I think maybe he loses an eye, maybe he, whatever. I don't know if he's going to fully go blind or not, but I think this is an opportunity for him to use this as like Kingpin can come out and say, hey, I've had an atrocity committed against me and I want to clean up this city and I want to run for mayor and da-da-da-da. And that's going to be maybe part of his trajectory forward.
Yep.
If they choose to use that.
That'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah. So.
Marvel Studios news. They'll have a panel at this year's CCXP 2022, which runs from November 30th into December. Kevin Feige will headline the panel and be joined by Ant-Man Quantumania star Paul Rudd, Jonathan Majors, and Evangeline Lilly, as well as director Peyton 3. The panel will focus on upcoming Quantumania and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 films. Sony will not be in attendance due to movies changing dates again. So that with the Spider-Man 4 rumor, and I wonder if Madam Web or Craven, or even if they're going to change dates again for Across the Spider-Verse. But it sounds like Sony will be shuffling dates, but will not be there at the panel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious to see how far Sony goes into this multiverse stuff, which it sounds like Madam Web is going to potentially maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, it sounded like Madam Web was supposed to protect like the Parker baby, Peter Parker as a baby. It sounds like so the Web of Life type thing is something I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But tomorrow it does start that conference, so I'll be definitely keep an eye on the news to see if any announcements or anything else is made, or if something does show up, or if they do announce that rumored Spider-Man 4 Fast Tracks project we talked about earlier. Chris Hemsworth did address on what he'd like to see next for Thor. You look at Thor 1 and 2, where they are very quite similar. Ragnarok and Love and Thunder are similar. I think it's about reinventing it. It's such a unique opportunity with Infinity War and Endgame to do very drastic things with the character. I enjoy that. I like keeping people on their toes. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me invested. I said this before, when it becomes too familiar, I think there's a risk in getting lazy then because I know what I'm doing, so I don't know. Again, I don't know if I'm even invited back, but if I was, I think it would have to be drastically different version in tone. Everything just for my own sanity. He laughed. Thor lost his mind. That last one, he's got to figure it out now. And honestly, with him having a daughter now, at the end of Love and Thunder, I would like to see him go to a King Thor type role like we talked about before in the past. So,
or I mean, they could also do Rune King Thor or whatever. The thing about Thor is I mean, if they ever have someone attack Asgard or something, I know we've talked about like Siege and stuff. But I mean, like, imagine if something happens to Valkyrie, he would almost have to go back to the throne, you
Yep.
know? So if something happens with, I think her name is Tessa Thompson.
Yep.
So something like maybe one day, like she just decides she doesn't want to be a part of the franchise anymore. He might just go sit on the throne at Asgard.
Yep.
And, you know, that can just be one of those things where we don't really have to see him, but Asgard can still operate and exist, you know?
Let's just the chat up here. Lex Luthor versus Iron Man. I feel that's a match of Marvel. If Marvel did a crossover with DC for that, that'd be an interesting one. Lex Luthor versus Iron Man.
Yeah. That'd
Venom and Alien Predator team up. That would be a cool one.
be cool.
Especially with, I think we've seen some of the comics now where you've seen some of the people, the Marvel characters take on Predator.
I
There
know
was that.
Batman's taken on Predator.
Yeah, but
before.
I think there was that whole series that I think they had. Go double check where they had about Predator taking on Marvel characters. Another one here. What gets me with Marvel is they have a lot of characters they don't use anymore that hold a lot of potential in their vault. And some of that stuff too, whether it's in comics or comics is easy, right? Because they can write anything in the comics. But when it comes to the MCU, it's all about how they do rights. Because remember, Marvel years ago to kind of save themselves, they sold rights to characters off. Fox got some, Sony got some, Universal.
Yeah.
There were probably others as well. Yes, Disney has kind of brought those things back into their fold. Sony still owns pretty much the Spider-Man IP, so that kind of makes things a little blurry there. And we talked about the Universal issue with Namor and the Hulk characters as well for individual movies. So as things come back into Marvel, Disney, they can start pulling out more characters out of the vault. Another example is like Conan, right? That's Marvel. That was Marvel. But they don't have the rights to Conan.
Well, I mean, you also have to think too with what we've seen the MCU turn into now in Phase 4, like characters that we see now in Phase 4 who have gotten shows, movies, projects, whatever, we would have never imagined to have seen in Phase 1, you know? So I think that maybe one day we'll get there where we start really getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the chest of characters that Marvel has. But
Go ahead, sorry. No.
I was just gonna say, I just think unfortunately, it's gonna take a lot of time because a lot of these characters, some of them deep in the chest are kind of ridiculous, so they almost kind of like have to be like Stilt Man, like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you saw Stilt Man in Daredevil Born Again, you would be like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
like Frogman.
Yeah.
Rip it, or leapfrog.
Yeah, you'd be like, this is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But like, I've heard the pitch that he could potentially be in something like She-Hulk. And if that happens, that would kind of fit because he's kind of comedic with almost how ridiculous he is,
And like we talked about last episode, or what, Sunday? Was Sunday or Saturday last time we streamed? Disney Plus be able to have shows on there has opened so many things up. Like I doubt we'd ever seen a Moon Knight, out there like they did with Disney Plus. So Disney Plus also allows them to take some of these characters and make special presentations around them, make series around them. So, Darthicorn, or Darth Gorycorn, sorry if I said that wrong. Hopefully we'll start seeing more stuff and then pulling more out of the vault with Disney Plus, and then being what they're going to go for going forward between the shows and special presentations as well.
Like, I want to see a Silver Surfer presentation, special presentation with Galactus in it. Like, that's like a great one that, like gives Silver Surfer a project, kind of like shed some light on his home world of Zenla and kind of give us a little bit of a backstory. Because I don't really think we got that in the Fantastic Four movie.
He talked about it. He's doing this for his planet and for his love, but that's about it. Like, if we got like a Norrin Rand story and the whole thing's about, Zenla and the planet and all that, and at the very end, we see Galactus coming in.
Yeah.
And by the end of that special presentation, he's the surfer. I think that would be perfect.
It would be so cool if they did that and they showed us like an entire planet, like basically like collapsing over the fact that Galactus is about to devour their world. And then him like go and make the fleet to Galactus and being like, let me be, your right hand, let me be your herald kind of type of thing. And that would be an awesome way. And just have them just like go off, like Silver Surfer just flies off in space and that'd be the end of it. Like,
another interesting comment here: instead of rewriting or screening over a lot of the old main guard with their achievements, then why not rewrite some of the old characters? Which they've done that, and I believe that there've been newer runs. They've changed some things, and I do believe that it's a 10-year gap between the newer runs that we see in the comics and what we see coming into the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a 5 to 10 year run that we'll see between that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is still time for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Guardians Holiday. I know we're going to talk about this next, but I do have this one piece of news I'll mention before we get into that. James Gunn on the Collector's Fate. So we do know that Nowhere was basically sold to Yondu, and so the Guardians' new base is Nowhere now.
Mm-hmm.
So he addressed the Collector's Fate. He said, I also think it's kind of necessary because, I'm actually working in a lot of mythology that's going to be important in Volume 3. The fact that we had Cosmo the dog, the fact that they have this amazing spaceship called the Bowie that's 4 stories tall in real life. They've bought Nowhere from the Collector. That's their home base. All those things are important to Volume 3. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess that they're going to be on Nowhere at the beginning of Volume 3. We're still getting Adam Warlock, aren't we?
yes.
In
Yep.
Volume 3. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Adam Warlock comes to Nowhere looking for them.
Yep.
And they have to flee or escape,
And then Bowie kind of splits up into 4 pieces, maybe.
Yeah.
Separates into 4 pieces for them to kind of go different areas, so they're all not taken out so easily.
It'd be like they could do something kind of similar to that episode. I forget which Avengers cartoon it is, but it's the one where they're all like spread across the 9 realms and have to figure their way back to one another. And like
Yep.
Tony Stark goes to like the realm with the dwarves, and he makes like an Iron Man armor out of like the same material that Mjolnir is made
Yep.
out of. So yeah, I mean they could just basically have them all like kind of just get separated and lost, and bring in all these other different little stories that they have with that.
Have the Bowie be a play on the Fantastic Jet,
Mm-hmm.
or what do they call that vehicle that split the 4?
Yeah.
Back to the chat here. A couple more good comments here. Like in my mind will always be Captain America will forever be the first person to punch a World War II character in the face. Yep. Correct point there.
Yeah.
Also, remember Marvel Scotty Infinite Universe thing. So a sloppy version of Sorcerer Supreme is as likely as any other version of him or other character. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
From Roxy here, I want a Beta Ray Bill presentation, which I would love that. Like if Chris Hemsworth decides to stop doing Thor, or he goes into being King Thor, bring in Beta Ray Bill and have him basically be the replacement for Thor.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit like confused here because now that they've given Stormbreaker to little girl, I don't imagine that they're going to take Stormbreaker and give that to Beta Ray Bill. I don't think that's going to happen.
He'll get more Mjolnir. Yep.
Yeah, so because Stormbreaker is kind of the more superior one out of the two because it allows him to have the Bifrost as well. Yeah, so Thor doesn't want Stormbreaker. He wants Mjolnir because he's partial to it, so they could totally just do the switch and give it to Beta Ray Bill, or they could forge him another hammer and give it to him, because we've seen enchanted weapons already in She-Hulk with the Wrecking Crew, where they all had some piece of like enchanted tech Asgardian construction tools. So
yep.
Yeah. So.
Secret Invasion. Reportedly, Amelia Clark is called Gia in Secret Invasion. However, her human name will be Nell, and she is Talos' daughter. Remember before the report that Disney had on their website that she was actually going to be Abigail Brand, but then they removed that from the website. And we said, was that an error, or is that someone slipping up? So if that was an error on their part, I could see Amelia Clark being Talos' daughter, because why have that whole thing with Monica Rambeau and Captain Marvel, have kind of them have that bond, but then not bring back Talos' daughter in a future project.
Yeah.
Also, too, Talos could be the one to help maybe warn Fury and kind of help on this side, depending on what side she's on and if she's gone rogue. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think also kind of weird to kind of add to this, but it's just really scary to think about all the people that could potentially be Skrulls in the MCU that we find out that we never actually know have been Skrulls, because the Skrulls have been here since the 90s. So, you could have characters that have been Skrulls the whole time.
Exactly. Rhodey.
Yeah, Rhodey. Yeah.
Rhodey's a prime one. Even Maria Hill would be a mind screw.
Yeah. Yeah.
If she ended up being a Skrull.
Mhm.
Other news about Secret Invasion, which is going to bridge into Armor Wars. Department of Damage Control is set to play a significant role in Marvel Studios' Armor Wars after their next appearance in spring 2023 Secret Invasion. So, which also makes you go back to Miss Marvel, and we saw Damage Control in the comment that was made. We haven't seen those powers yet. So I almost wonder if Department of Damage Control is already infiltrated with Skrulls, especially the female agent that they were kind of, we gave this, the kind of comments that were made to her when she kind of went rogue in that. So I wonder if that's like the main faction that already was infiltrated was Department of Damage Control.
Mhm. And they can be using their acquisition of superhumans as a way to build some sort of super Skrull.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Collecting powers type thing.
Yeah, trying
yeah.
to stack as many abilities in one person as they could, or figure out as many abilities as they could.
And we should see how that's going to fold into Armor Wars as well. Like, what kind of technology do they get their hands on that Rhodey has to then go clean up?
Mhm.
Agatha Coven of Chaos news. Aubrey Plaza says she has a really pivotal role in an interview with GQ magazine. So that's interesting.
That'll be Witch, most likely, probably.
Yeah. Or someone that Agatha has come across in the past. Female version of Mephisto, maybe.
I mean, they never really said anything about Agatha having a coven. So I mean, she have a coven of witches that she was a part of out there. I know she kind of broke off, I think, from her mother's coven or whatever. But
she killed most of them, didn't she?
Yeah.
We saw.
I mean, and they made that really interesting point to point out that the Scarlet Witch has no coven, and kind of Agatha really didn't either. It seemed with her appearance. So who knows? Maybe she did have a coven and they come looking for her. Maybe she had one in the past and they stumble upon her or something.
Or the coven that she killed, that they had other people that were out there that wasn't there that night, and they come looking for her. And that who Aubrey Plaza could be playing is one of those witches looking for her after what happened with the coven. So, Deadpool news. So the Miss Minutes Twitter account tweeted this yesterday. Hey there at Deadpool, love you, Miss Minutes. And then Ryan Reynolds' Twitter account responded, hello, Miss Minutes. So are we going to see, Deadpool come across the TVA possibly in Deadpool 3? That's going to be interesting.
I mean, I really hope so. I mean, I think it would be so funny to see Deadpool running around in the TVA. But I mean, it's one of those things we've seen people with magic basically not be able to use their magic in the TVA. Imagine somebody who's got swords on their back and carries a gun. You know what I'm saying? He's just going to go in there and just be running down the hallways and stabbing people and stuff. Because he's going to be doing Deadpool. It's not going to, do whatever. But I think that we could have a potential shot here where we could have maybe Hugh Jackman and him both end up in the TVA at some point.
Or what if that's what they start at? For example, what if for some reason Deadpool's time jinx at the end of Deadpool 2 got the attention of the TVA? So he's actually in the TVA, and the beginning of that movie, him escaping the TVA, ends up in the universe with Hugh Jackman, and then they go on some Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure type storyline in that movie.
So I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day, and I had no idea. That scene where he's standing over the crib and everything like that, that would have been pretty recent of the birth of that person. That but that person was born in 1889. So he was back in 1889, all the way back then. Deadpool was changing events. Yeah,
Logan as a baby.
Yeah, maybe.
Because that was around that time when Logan was born.
So Deadpool went back and changed an event of a major world person, that impacted and created a war and everything. He basically went back and changed that, and that being 1889, I mean, that's 19th century. That's got to have changed all kinds of events if they choose to use that, and then make the TVA come in and be all right, we've got to we got to take you, bud, because you've changed 100+ years worth of stuff.
When was he born? Hold on a second. When was Logan born? What year was Logan born?
It was like
We knew it.
1800s, but
It had to be 1800s.
maybe 1860s or something. Maybe earlier.
1832. James
Yeah.
Howlett was born in 1832 in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So you said 1889.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. I wonder if they kind of twist that in the MCU to where 1889 was when James Howlett Logan was born.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that. I mean, or, Wolverine could be 50 years old, and after Deadpool went and did that one thing, maybe he goes and finds Wolverine, and they just kind of like pick it up from that scene,
Yep.
where he's like in 1889, he's like, oh, well, I'm here, I'll go find Wolverine. He finds him, and he's like, I'm going to take you with me. And then brings him with him, like, yeah, okay. Like,
Ultron returning. So the comic service is reporting that, according to one of our sources, the Ultron AI was not destroyed in the wake of Avengers Age of Ultron, and the remnants of the Ultron AI are still active but dormant, which we saw an Ultron head, I think, in Homecoming.
Yeah.
Yep, the DODC had an Ultron head.
Mhm.
Queen Ramonda made a comment to Shuri about the AI being, come back and murdering people or something like that in Wakanda forever.
Mhm.
Did they actually burn him completely out of the net?
No.
Also, too, with Shield messing with Vision's body,
Mhm.
was there any code still left in Vision's dead body as well when they brought White Vision back? Could that, because think about it, because during the snap and when Sword's doing that stuff, they could have been tinkering around. They were obviously doing something with that body. We saw White Vision come back. There could have been some dormant code in there, or a piece of Ultron still inside of Vision, and that
Mhm.
could be how Ultron comes back as well, which I think they need to. Ultron, for example, in the comics and the cartoons, Ultron was a big help fighting Kang, right? Not the Ultron that we saw with Stark and Vision and Banner, but the Ultron we saw from Hank Pym.
Mhm.
They also had that prison as well. That
Mhm.
Ultron basically,
The big house.
yeah, the Ultron basically was like the guardian of and kind of kept, that kind of stuff. So could Ultron coming back, them bringing that Ultron back in a way, be a way to help them defeat Kang?
I mean, I think so. I mean, we've seen how powerful Ultron is in What If, where he got the Infinity Stones, and then suddenly he like becomes aware that there's other universes. And I mean, he's a constantly learning AI. He's going to be basically taking in information always. And we've seen this kind of like theme where just because somebody disappears doesn't mean that they're gone. Like Zola had his, AI
Yep.
running. It had to be rebooted, and once it fired up, it was him. We've seen that return in What If, where Zola's AI was used
Like a
to kinda
virus, yeah.
with Ultron. But with that being said, you could very well just have Ultron like on a piece of machinery or something one day, because Vision did shut him out of the net in Age of Ultron. He says it.
But did he though?
Yeah, but I mean, maybe Vision's existence was the only thing that kept
Keeping him at bay?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like they could always play that card if they really wanted to. And then now that Vision's gone, Ultron can now come back out,
Also remember too, in Multiverse of Madness in 838, they did succeed what Tony Stark was trying to do in 616 with the Ultron protocol.
Yeah.
So, good thing here from the chat. So many potential pieces of him scattered around for someone to rebuild or adapt him. Exactly. Like
Mhm.
how many parts of Ultron were scattered in Sokovia after that happened,
Mhm.
right? Or when they went to Korea, I think,
Mhm.
was in Korea where they're at, where he was visiting, Dr. Cho.
Mhm.
How many times were there fighting bots in different places during Age of Ultron that they left pieces somewhere?
Well, and you have to think that on Sokovia, before Sokovia hits the planet, they destroy Sokovia and it
Yep.
blows up. So, there's such a radius there that in the
Yeah, that's part-
explosion, pieces are just everywhere. Like
Yeah.
Sokovia, Ultron bots, like all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, who knows? You could have other countries who now have pieces of Ultron.
I mean, here you go. Did Ultron? I think you said Voltron, which I love Voltron by the way, but I think you mean
Mhm.
Ultron. did Ultron down himself into some data storage lock a Bitcoin cold wallet waiting to be plugged in again? Exactly. A USB stick somewhere, kind of like Zola was on a USB stick we saw in Winter Soldier, right?
Mhm.
You know, a USB hub plugged into a mainframe. You know, we saw basically Zola right there. So
Or he's hiding where he started, which is in Stark Industries Systems. You know,
yep.
so
So that's all the news today. Let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. So the main plot of this was basically trying to fulfill Peter's wish with the good present and bringing the Christmas spirit back, right? So
mhm,
we saw, you know, first thing, I love that we got to see Yondu again, and Michael Rooker voiced him.
mhm.
It was pretty cool. They had the cartoon flashbacks
Yeah, I
to
like that.
show that. Yep, and Peter's first Christmas with the Ravengers and how that came to be, and how he got his blasters, and how Yondu started his collection of little trinkets that he has.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it also kind of shows that, Yondu was sort of a decent father figure
Yep.
for Quill. I like that they've kind of shown that now after, like, they've kind of had the little bit of, like, the nice moment at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with him,
Yep.
where suddenly everybody starts to appreciate Yondu a little bit more. But with that being said, one of the funniest parts of this episode was, I think, the fact, or episode, let's say holiday special, was the fact they pulled in Kevin Bacon in this and used that as, this is like Peter Quill's present. Like, he's going to love Kevin Bacon because Kevin Bacon was referenced in other things. I mean, they
Yep.
even did it with Thor. Like, they asked Thor if he was part of the Avengers. And I love that joke of, I don't know. He might be on the team. I haven't been there in a while, kind of type of thing. Like, it's just so funny.
And then the Footloose comment in Infinity War, you know, is
Mhm.
Kevin Bacon still the greatest? Whatever. He's like, he never was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think Kevin Bacon was it was like an interesting addition to this film, but it kind of, at the same time, they've made that joke so many times, it was kind of cool to see him kind
Yep.
of like get brought into the film too, Um,
Another thing too, it was good to see a more animated Drax, kind of as they went to abduct Kevin Bacon,
yeah, abduct.
but yeah, but also or kidnap, but also
Yeah.
too to see a much more active fighting Mantis as well. Because for the most part, we've only seen her use her powers, not her jumping around doing things and that kind of stuff. Where she seems like she could be a pretty good asset, especially as we go into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I'll tell you what confused me was I did not expect to see as much Mantis and Drax in this special as we did. Like, I mean, they were in a large majority of this
Yep.
special, Not that that's like a problem, but I just did not expect it to go that direction where, like, and it's funny because they literally took the two of the team's most literal characters. Like, they're basically like they speak in literal like terms, because they don't really like know how to joke or anything like that. So them coming to Earth and then like being in this environment and partying and kind of all that stuff. It's really funny seeing them kind of interact because, like, Drax is literally like, oh, nothing will go over my head because
Yeah.
it can't. Like, like all those kinds of things. So, I mean, and Mantis, she's sort of similar, but yeah, I mean, it was very cool seeing those two, I guess, because it gave those characters a little bit more light.
Yep.
So
One comment here. Speaking of heroes, I know it's not Marvel, but last I knew, but did you hear about the Green Ranger? Yep. Rest in peace. Yeah, we saw the actor portraying the Green Ranger passed away. So,
yeah.
but speaking of Mantis too, when they were in Hollywood and thought they were like those boardwalk characters that were collecting money and all the money they got, and
Mhm.
the funny thing was when they thought they saw Steve Rogers, the Captain
Mhm.
America character, they kind of chased him off and went after him. But just making all the money and then going to the bar, spending all the money on drinking and shots and dancing and
Mhm.
having a good time. Like you were saying, it was great to see both of them in a different light than we usually see them as characters. So
Mhm.
definitely opened up some more things for Drax and Mantis, and who knows what we're going to see of them after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because I do expect to see a new team after that movie, including one Cosmo the dog, who we now know is Maria, what's her last name? Bakalova. We know that she was cast in a mysterious role in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 we now know that she will be the voice of Cosmo the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and I liked Cosmo in the special. Like, I don't think I realized that we were getting Cosmo in the special until I was like actually watching it. I don't remember reading it. I mean, I could be very wrong on that, but or us talking about it. But yeah, I liked Cosmo. I liked Cosmo and Rocket interacting. I thought that was very neat when they were putting the panel up on the side of the building and everything. Kind of funny. Groot in the background was interesting because Groot looks a little bit different here.
he's
You know,
jacked. He's,
yeah,
you know,
huge. He's huge. And yeah, I mean, with what we know about Guardians 3 coming out, I mean, I think we're gonna see the team get kind of shooken up a little bit. I don't think Dave Bautista wants to really return for Drax, so I don't know if he's, you know, gonna make it out of the next film or not. Um, I also feel like maybe we may not see Rocket make it past the next movie. So I feel like this was kind of meant to the special was meant to bring all these characters together to kind of put them in kind of like a good environment one last time before we just get crushed in the third Guardians movie, you know, where it's going to hurt real bad.
Yep. Coming here from Jamie. I wanted more Cosmo, fewer songs, but the songs were good, especially that 12 Days of Christmas they sung in the beginning, or what Christmas song they had like for the intro. Actually that was a pretty catchy song, and how they were changing things up, it was pretty good. Jamie also says Groot looks like a college football player. Exactly, he was jacked, you know, and there was some, I guess, questioning whether he was more CGI or puppet or both.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it looked like one point they touched him. I don't know. Maybe it was the green suit underneath of the blue suit they used for the CGI. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see if we get any kind of behind the scenes or like a Christmas assemble or, you know, episode of this to see kind of the behind the scenes stuff. Other things too about this, I actually kind of love the tone going into Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It does set the tone from some things, but I also think too, like you said, not all the Guardians are going to make it out of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So it also is setting us up for a big just a let down, because something's going to happen major. And I think when we saw some of the footage out there is that we know we're going to get the High Evolutionary. We know that we're going to get Rocket's origins in this movie. Probably see how Rocket and Groot came to be, you know, best pals with each other, how they came across each other. I wonder how much of the Sovereign we're going to see in this movie, or if at all, because we know that, you know, Adam Warlock was made from the Sovereign in that cocoon at the end of Volume 2. So I wonder what role the Sovereign will play. Are we going to see, we're going to see Gamora. I thought we saw in the stuff from like one of the cons that she's leading the Ravagers in that. So we interested to see how they went from, you know, what's his name? Sean Gunn, what's his name?
Oh, Kraglin.
Yeah, Kraglin kind of being the lead, where Yondu's
Arrow.
Yeah, to going into Gamora leading the Ravagers in that film.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. And another thing that I want to say about this movie, which I think the way that this holiday special, it's I keep on messing this up. But with this holiday special, the way that it ends, like you said, we've got so many different things, like so many different trajectories here that we can take with the Guardians. And this is meant to kind of like put the bow on it, I think, literally like a Christmas bow. Like,
on this team. Yep.
Yeah, on this team. And kind of like, because we're getting ready to see some things really shake up with the Guardians. We might even lose, like, they may not all die. I mean, you could have Drax just disappear for a while and leave, or
come back later
somewhere. Yeah, and if Dave Bautista ever wants to come back, it's like, oh, look, there's Drax. He's right over there.
Like for example, what they end up saying that his wife or his daughter's still alive, and he either staying with them, saying, "Hey guys, if you need me, I'll be here, but I'm kind of doing my own thing."
Yeah, and I mean, they could always find his daughter or something in the third movie or something, and then maybe he stays with her. Like maybe she comes and finds them, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's so much. But that big drop about Mantis being Peter Quill's sister,
it wasn't a big drop though. It's kind of obvious though.
Yeah.
It was. I wasn't surprised at all when they dropped that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they confirmed it. It's like, you think with the whole time when she was with Ego and she had powers too, and
Well, and
there
I
were
think
some, it just, I don't know, it wasn't a surprise to me or a shock.
I think that scene where Ego shows, like, him on, like, different planets with different aliens, like, next to all these, like, different, like, women that he's had children with and stuff like that, there was, like, a little scene where he, like, showed it in, like, one of those little things in one of his rooms where it was, like, him, like, spreading
Hmm.
himself. And I think there was one where it looked like it might be Mantis's, like, mother or something,
Antennas.
and because
Yeah.
there was, like, antennas or something on it. But I was shocked because, like, suddenly my brain's like, well, suddenly that makes sense why Ego didn't kill her.
Yep.
But, like, at the same time, I still wonder why he wouldn't because he never, I guess, asked her to, like, try and do the light thing or
Or
whatever.
maybe because he needed a male to do his thing. She was the
Maybe.
strongest female of all the offspring he had, so he kept her
Yeah, either that or my only other thought was maybe, like, her powers were, like, one of the only, like, useful,
to
like,
him.
species to him for
Yeah.
like, his issues because she could calm him down,
Yep.
basically. So, like, maybe he only spared her for that reason because she had, like,
The
utility
purpose.
for him.
Yep.
Yeah, so kinda like giving him headache removal almost, but yeah.
Okay, let's talk Nebula. Starting off with Roxy's line here. Actually, before I get to this one, let's go back to her comment here. She said it surprised her finding out that Mantis is Peter's sister.
Mhm.
But going to her comment here about, let's get to Nebula because Nebula was having a good time during this film. You saw on the side of Nebula, but I
Mhm.
agree, Roxy. My favorite line was when Nebula screams, "You can't outrun me, Bacon!" And she went to take him down when he kind of took off. When Peter says, "Don't run," after they unwrap him because he can't breathe.
Mhm.
And she chases him down to find him. But the scenes of her dancing and this, that kind of stuff were awesome as well. I always love Karen Gillian, however you say your last name. She
Mhm.
plays Nebula perfectly. I love it. The voice, how she does it. Nebula's like one of my favorite characters. So um I love how she did that. And hopefully, when we see Gamora come back, we see more of that sibling rivalry, but acceptance between Gamora and Nebula as well in volume 3.
Mhm. And I think she was one of the few that was egging on that, like, fight in, what was it? Was it Endgame with, Thor and, Peter Quill, where,
Yeah.
maybe you 2 should fight each other for the
Yeah.
honor of leadership.
Yeah, to the death or something
Like
like that.
yeah, yeah. Like, 'cause, like, I mean, like, yeah, but anyway, back to this special, like, she did a great job in this special. I was a little bit confused on the whole Bucky's arm thing.
So I have something about that. So she did have the best present,
Mhm.
which was Bucky's arm that Rocket
Mhm.
wanted, and remember in game, oh, I'm getting that arm.
Mhm.
So James Gunn did address this via Twitter. Like if you're not following James Gunn on Twitter, he corrects people, especially with the whole DC thing now, because people keep saying, well, they're going to do this, they're gonna. He's like, no, there's nothing going on in DC right now that's been out there. We're still working on it. We're still planning. Everything else is a lie. He pretty much says to people that try to say this is what's happening. He goes, if they're saying they know what's happening, they're wrong. But anyways, follow James Gunn on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. But via Twitter, he talked about how she got Bucky's arm. He says she took a trip to Earth and tore it off his body because she was feeling so Christmassy. So I almost wonder if we're going to see Bucky and Thunderbolts with no arm or a new arm.
I mean, I guess she didn't hitch a ride to Earth with Mantis and Drax, like
She could have taken the boy herself. She could have
yeah,
took another ship. 'Cause
yeah,
they still have the Milano. Yeah, they still have the Milano.
yeah.
Unless they got destroyed after Endgame.
Mhm.
Because did we see the Milano at all at in nowhere?
I don't think we did.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, the Bowie's, like, not really, like, a full ship. It doesn't look like it's as big as the other ships, you know what I'm saying? Like, I
yeah,
could be very wrong,
yeah.
but,
Has
I don't
cloaking too.
yeah, it does have cloaking, but I mean, like, imagine that team on the Bowie, like, that thing was kinda small. I think their
Yeah,
ship was kind of already pushing it, and that one seems smaller than their other ship,
yeah.
so
Unless this way we saw it, he wasn't. But we'll have to see.
Mhm.
Roxy from the chat comments. Oh my god. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how she, if this is the one thing for the Guardians movie, if we see Bucky again with the same arm, or we see Bucky with a different arm, in
Mhm.
Thunderbolts, and did like Val's team make him a new arm? Did they kind of use some of the similar Taskmaster type stuff? Because remember, she has metal parts too.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that technology to give him a new arm, maybe. So interesting to see how that one plays out.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that they're going to be upset about that too, because Wakanda made his last arm and it was
Mhm.
vibranium, wasn't it? And
Yep.
old Val just wants all the vibranium for the
Yeah.
United States. So, like, to see another piece of vibranium be lost, I'm sure she's upset about the loss of Bucky's arm.
Roxy goes, "Damn, that's crazy." Anything else about the Guardian special? It does look like from the post credits scene that we're gonna get a third or another special in the future, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
We're interested to see if we do get a special, and if we do get a special, who's gonna do it? Because I'm not sure if James Gunn will be crossing back over once he fully moves over to DC. I think the Volume 3 is his last Marvel project. I could see. Unless they work something out where he can come back and do anything Guardian specific related, or if he hands the reins over to somebody else for Guardians.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm I'm not really sure if they will do a second one. I mean, it's kind of implied by the end of
Yeah.
this special, by what Rocket says, which is kind of weird because it's almost like him breaking the fourth wall too,
Yeah.
like he's like, "Oh, great, now we're gonna have to have another special," and then it like ends. But yeah, I mean, one other thing that I think really stands out about this special is the where Groot basically like gives a summary of the episode with all of his gifts for everybody, where he makes like those little like dioramas almost like of what's happening. Thought that was really cool because they're made out of wood. He is kind
Yeah.
of like a
Tree.
tree person, so he probably made those himself. But yeah, I mean, that was a nice little touch for them to add on to the episode. Also like to see their complete misunderstanding of Christmas. I thought that was really funny. Like, how they did not really I think they say at one point that, like, "Oh yeah, well, we just wanted to do something for you because like Kraglin told Cosmo, who told,
Yep.
Drax, who told me that, yada, 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 this is what happens." And it's like the game of telephone. It's like been through so many people that the original story probably was completely different.
Jamie, does Quill even spend any time with Kevin Bacon? Which they really didn't show much. They saw him
No.
when he kind of unwrapped him, and then he kind of helped try to calm him down. But then after that, we saw Kevin Bacon on stage singing with the rest of the band. So yeah, that's a good question. Did he even spend any time with Kevin Bacon?
Mhm. Which, I mean, I do think that this entire special felt a little rushed. Like, like there wasn't like an incredible lot to it for me, but it felt like it was like almost like a movie without like half of the scenes
Yeah.
almost, like it felt like it was just kind of compressed and kind of put together. I mean, they could have definitely had Kevin Bacon on screen for a little while, have him hang out. And he does have that line where he does say, "I'll see you at Easter," or what.
Yeah. So maybe there's an Easter special coming.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Maybe that's the next one is Easter. Maybe James Gunn has one more thing up his sleeve, and they kind of already did a Guardians Easter special.
Yeah.
So, but also his wife in real life, Kira Knightley, I think. Or no, what's her name? Kira Cedric.
Mm.
She was in here as well. Her voice. She called
Yeah.
him.
And her it was on the phone when she
Yeah.
called.
Yeah.
So
And then we got a Batman reference.
yeah.
So does Batman exist? So we have Batman and Superman existing in the MCU now because
Yeah.
Superman from Eternals and now Batman from the Guardians Christmas special.
But
So
Icarus says he does not wear a cape. So
yep.
But yeah, I
So
mean,
go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say overall it was decent, this
Yeah.
holiday special.
So closing thoughts, we kind of talked about this kind of the big, cherry on top of the Guardians before we kind of see the team get broken up in some way in Volume 3, which what was Volume 3's release date? I know February was Quantum Mania. Was it March or May?
Not sure.
I'll have it up in front of me again. May 5th, 2023 in the US. May 4th, 2023 in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Quantumania, and then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So probably, and this is our last Marvel content of the year, which also makes you wonder, what if Season 2, we have not heard a release date for that yet, have we?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so we have nothing for December or January because Quantum Mania does not come out until February 17th, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah, February 17th. So
Maybe.
I almost wonder if they could surprise us with What If Season 2. Because
Hmm.
right now, the only thing I have for release date is 2022 for
Mhm.
that. So I wonder if they can come out and say, hey, we're releasing What If Season 2 during the holidays and then into January.
Mhm.
To kind of give that up, January and February to kind of break it up between now and Quantum Mania. But in between now and then, I don't expect to see anything much Guardians wise until we see their movie in May. We'll find out and see what happens from the event this week that they'll talk about the Guardians. Maybe we'll get a new trailer for the
Mm.
Guardians between now and
Maybe.
then. But yeah, I'm interested to see, if we do get a reformed team, Cosmo, Gamora possibly leading the team.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe Adam Warlock as part of the team. Maybe we get the end credits scene, because we know that they do put end credits in because Thor: Love and Thunder, the Thor will return. That was thrown in. I think even Hercules was thrown in without Taika knowing.
Mhm.
So I wonder if they'll throw in a Richard Rider Nova thing at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, like the very last, like the closing credits one.
Mhm.
And he could be part of the new team. So Cosmo, maybe because I can see Gamora and Nebula staying as part of the team. Cosmo, Gamora, Nebula, Adam Warlock, Nova, and then Rocket, Groot, and Drax are kind of, and Peter, even maybe Peter, even we don't see Peter again as
Which, I mean,
well.
it would make sense to put Richard Rider in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, not because it just happens in space, but because of the first movie had
Yep,
them going to
Xander. Yep,
Xandar, and they basically took the Power Stone there, which Thanos went and destroyed Xandar and took the Power Stone.
yep.
So, potentially there you have the Guardians could have met him in the past or met his father or something. They've
Or
been
unless they
wiped
make
out.
John C. Riley's character the
The
one who kind
father.
of, yeah, the father, the one who survives and runs into Richard Rider and makes him Nova.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, he could give him access to that, like, power source that they have there,
But
and
do you think having Nova and Adam Warlock on the Guardians team is too much though?
I don't, but, I mean, the problem here is how many people die in the next Guardians movie or leave, and I don't wanna say they're all gonna die, but I have a feeling we're gonna be met with some death and probably met with a few characters that we won't see for at least a long time or
Yep.
maybe potentially never again.
Rocket and Drax are my top two. I
Mhm.
don't think we'll see Groot have something happen to Groot because Groot can just regenerate, but I think Groot will end up being somewhere else.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Rocket is a for sure thing. Drax, I'm not sure about, but I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling we might lose Mantis. Because now that she's Peter's sister, now that would really hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on how much they're gonna change up that team. But I feel like if we lose Rocket, Cosmo is gonna kind of step into like that Rocket
Yep.
role, on the team. Groot's always gonna be there because Groot's CGI. So
Yep.
he's always gonna be like and his people basically like live for a really long time. So like, they'll just have
But
him
does he go
grow
back
up.
to his people? Because to me, Groot's kind of like Chewie. Groot's like a Wookiee to me,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
does he go back to his people? Maybe.
Hmm.
Even though we saw a majority of the Wookiees get wiped out in Star Wars, do
Hmm.
we see him go back to his people in the Guardians?
Hmm.
So
Yeah. And I mean, I hate to say it like this too, but we are gonna have what, the High Evolutionary in this too?
High Evolutionary and Adam Warlock.
Yeah, so I mean, to put Nova, the High Evolutionary, Adam Warlock
Well, I don't think Nova will be in the movie. I think Nova is only going
at
to
the
be a
end of
closing.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, still, that's a lot. And talking about the Sovereign and everything
yeah,
too, which funny enough, I know like that's like a street performer thing, like the gold people like Crowley, like
yeah.
in
Moon
Moon
Knight.
Knight.
Yeah,
Yeah. But we had another one of those gold people in this when they were like out there. And I think that's supposed to be like, like just a street performer, but I kind of chuckled because I was like, oh, like I wonder if that's a sovereign spy spying on him or something. But yeah, like it would be really interesting to see them cram the Sovereign, cram Adam Warlock, which of course he's going to be attached to the Sovereign, and Nova, and all this other stuff in this. That's going to be a big film if they,
Yeah.
from beginning to end credits, So
I wonder if Guardians gets taken over by Taika. If they have Taika back to do their movie, if he does a Guardians Volume 4
it's funny. It would kind of fit with his
style.
style.
Yep.
Yeah. Because he's all comedy and he's kind of like a retro kind of guy. So like, Quill would be like right up his alley, I would think, because Quill came from Earth, in 88?
Yep.
So, so he's like an 80s kid, So yeah, I mean, I think it would be fitting if that were to happen. I'm not a big fan of the last Thor movie, but I think that if that were, I mean, it kind of makes sense though why the Guardians were in it now at the beginning. Now that you brought up his style,
Transition.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense. But
All right. Well, one last thing before we close out for this time. Hoping for Secret Invasion release date at BrazilCon. Yep, me too. Because I think right now we know it's spring 2023, but we don't have an exact release date. So good catch there, Jamie. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on the event coming up tomorrow and see what we get from Marvel. Maybe we'll get any more of that Spider-Man news, the rumored stuff about Spider-Man 4. Hopefully, Andy, if you're watching, or if you're not, hopefully you're feeling better. It's probably late your time, so you're probably snoozing right now. We should be back. Are we back on Sunday next week?
I think we're not doing Sunday this week.
We're not. That's the 4th, right?
Or I don't think we are. I'm not going to be able to.
Oh yeah, you're out this weekend. I think.
Yeah. I thought
Yeah.
Andy was too.
Yeah, so I don't think we're streaming this weekend for those that are regular viewers, but we're probably back early next week sometime, if not the following weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone have a good rest of the week. Thanks for joining us, our followers on YouTube, Facebook page and group, on Twitch, on Trovo, on Twitter. Everyone who's part of the show today, thank you for the comments and everything. We will catch you next time. Those listening on the recording, again, hopefully we have another show here soon to get more recordings out for you. So have a good one.
See you guys.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced?
All right. Well, as